This will be for the Tremel toy for activity 132. This is specifically going to be for the base plate. So we're going to be referencing this drawing. You did do these measurements previously in 131, so you're going to be referring to these. It does have some additional dimensions on here that were not on the other document previously that you put your measurements on, so it has all of the dimensions that you need. So we're going to be starting with the bottom plate, which is going to be this one down in this corner. So I'm just going to zoom in down here so we can see just these measurements. So first thing we're going to start with is the box itself, which we don't have that dimension on here, but we can come up to this top plate. We have that it's 4.25 by 4.25, so it is a square. I'm going to come back down to here for when we need to reference it again. Here we go. All right, so make sure you're in your IED team. You have a folder 132, and we're going to create our file now that it is in that folder. So for this, instead of starting with create sketch, we're going to go to create a new component because we want to have the bottom plate and the base plate and the top plate separately. It'll be on the same document, but it'll be its own component so that we can view just those areas as needed. So now we're going to create a new sketch that it's going to be in the bottom plate component, and we're going to do this on the top view. Just make sure that the top is sitting upright, that it's not rotated. If it is, just use these arrows to orient it so that it is sitting upright. So we want to make a center rectangle rather than the 2-point because we want it to be centered within the origin. It'll make some things a lot easier. So then type in our dimensions. And we now have the overall shape of our design. Now, first, before we do these 0.422 dimensions, we're going to add in 1, 2, 3, 4 hexagons and 1 circle. These circles that are inside are the circles that are on the top plate up here. So we're not going to draw them in our bottom. They're just showing you that the holes up top are through holes, as well as the hexagons, they're showing that they are through holes. So I'm going to come back here. We're going to go to create, select polygon, and we're going to do an inscribed polygon. We're going to do one above this diagonal line, one above this diagonal line, one above this one, and one below this one. So before we go and do any dimensions, we want our hexagons to be have one edge that's horizontal. So you can either use parallel for these lines to the top or bottom, or you can just click the horizontal and it'll make the line that you click a horizontal line. All right, so now we're going to add in the dimensions, which for each of these from the corner to this corner is 0.422. So for the dimensions, click on the top corner, this corner here, and you want to make sure that your dimension is going to be on a diagonal line. So we don't want it this way. We don't want it straight up. You want to drag it on a diagonal so that it orients itself on that diagonal. So 0.422. Reason we want it to be on that diagonal is because that's the dimension we want it to be. Notice how if you change the orientation, how there's different numbers. So we want to make sure that you're putting it in the right direction, because otherwise it's going to give you a different dimension for what we want. So we want to make sure all of them are on that diagonal. Do the last two here. Okay, now that they're all the correct dimension, I'm going to add in that circle, and that goes around here somewhere, and it is 0.375 for diameter. And I'm just going to drag this out a little bit. So 0.375. Now what we're going to do is start adding in all these dimensions. So for here, we have it's 3.875, and this one is 2.75. Those are for the heights, so it's for the center of the hexagon to the bottom of the square. And that's 875? Yes, 875. And from here to the bottom, it is 2.5, or 2.75, sorry. And I'm just going to drag these dimensions out so they're not all on top of each other. Now we're going to look at the other side. So this one is 0.375, this one is 1.5, and this one is 2.875. So here to the bottom is 0.375. Here to the bottom, 2.75. Nope. 1.5, that's what it was. If you want to double check, 1.5. And this one was 2.875. Okay, so we have all the heights. Now we're going to go and do the widths. So for this one here, we have 1.25 to here, which is actually the dimension of this square. So we have to add that 1.25 and the 0.406, which is what this one is. So we have to add the two together to get what this width is. Excuse me. So to the edge. So the easiest thing to do is going to be to type in the 1.25 plus 0.406. So 1.25 plus 0.406. And there we have, this one is fully dimensioned now. All the edges are black rather than blue, which means it is fully constrained and dimensioned. So now we have this one, which was the 0.406. Moving on to this side, this one to the left edge is 2.75. This one to the left edge is 3.875. And this circle, we have that dimension up here, which is 0.875. To here is 2.75. Here to here is 3.875. And this one to here is 0.875. All right, so I'm just gonna spread these ones out down here a bit like I did on the sides. Again, just so that they're not all right on top of each other, they have a little bit more space. All right, so now everything here we can see is fully dimensioned and constrained. Everything is outlined in black, and you can double check. Here we have the width, we have a height, same thing, we have a width, we have a height, we have a height, we have a width, we have a width, a height, and a width. So that's just another way to double check that everything is complete. So we're going to finish our sketch, and we see that the two plates together are 0.48, and they are equal. So we just have to do 0.48 divided by 2. So for our extrude, we just want to select the plates here. Do not select the hexagons or the circle. And we're going to do 0.24. So now the bottom plate is done. And we're now going to create a new component. And this will be the top plate. All right. We don't want to have the bottom plate as the component, so we're going to do, for the parent, we're going to select the overall rather than the bottom plate because we don't want it to be inside the bottom plate. So you can see it creates its own separate entity, so we can close the bottom plate and you'll see bottom and then top once we go to create the top. Whereas before, when I collect new component, it put it inside the bottom plate. So we're going to create a sketch, and we can still select the top of the bottom plate, which is where we want it. We do want it to be on top of that bottom plate. So we're going to do the center rectangle again. You could do the 2-point and do it from corner to corner. I just prefer just to make sure I have everything correct, I prefer to go do the center point rectangle and type in the dimensions just to ensure I have the correct size. So now the ones we're going to be looking at are this sketch here and this one up top here. So since we have to add in all of the circles and the rectangles, I'm going to start down here. Doing the diameters of all the circles, and then we'll eventually get to the dimensions of the square and the rectangle. So I'm going to add in that 2-point rectangle first. You do want to place it on the edge here, so you want to make sure there's an X when you go to click. And just drag it for now. It is a height of 0.5 and a width of 1.5, or 1.75, my apologies. If you want to just go ahead and type those in, which those are at the top up here. So we have from here to here, which is the width, that's 0.5. And then from here to here, 1.75. So now we're going to go do that square, which, oops, clicked in the wrong spot. I'm going to do the, make it a center. I'm just going to place it here for now. Make a little square. We'll do the dimensions after. And I'm just going to move it. If you click and hold in the center, you can drag it elsewhere. I'm just going to drag it away from the edge a little bit. So now we have those two. I'm going to add in the circles. If you're able to, you can place it within the center of the pentagons, but if not, you're going to be adding in the dimensions. There we go. Anyway. So I'm just going to focus on putting in the correct dimensions. So we have 1.75 or 1.77 diagonal from each other. We have 2.23 and 0.191. So this one here is the 0.177 along with this one, 0.177. This one is 0.23, and down here is 0.191. Now you do the exact same thing down here on the bottom. So we have 0.177, and the way I'm able to get these circles coming up to 0.23 so quickly is I'm just hitting C on my keyboard, so that I don't have to constantly keep going up over here to click the circle and then coming back down here. I'm just clicking C on my keyboard. Now, notice how I did not put any of the circles on this diagonal line. If you do, it'll create a problem when you go to add in the dimensions because it will only want to move on this diagonal line. So make sure you place them either above or below the line to avoid having that constraint and having to deal with deleting aspects. All right, so we do have to add a circle here, which is 0.2. That's going to be inside of this circle. So with this one, once you see this light blue circle, if you click that, it'll constrain it where the other circle is. So you don't even have to do any of the other dimensions. If you notice, it's already filled in black because it's doing that width of 0.875 as well as that height as 3.875. So you don't even have to worry about adding those dimensions. If you even try to, so if I try and do the height here, it has 2.875, and it's going to say that I'm creating a driven, over constraining the sketch and to create a driven dimension. So that one is already completely done. So coming back here, I'm going to start with the square. So this one is 1.25 by 1.25. So you can see this line to here, this line to here. They match up to this dimension. Following here, 1.25 to here. So that's 1.25. So this edge, come out here, 1.25, as well as this one, 1.25. And then from here to the bottom is 0.406. From here to the edge, 0.406. So here to here, 0.406. And from here to here, 0.40. Oops. my goodness, 0.6. There we go. So just to start moving these dimensions out, I'm going to pull the 4.25 out. This one doesn't need to go far. Move this here. I'm going to bring this inside here so that it doesn't cross over 0.425, and then bring this one out. You can line these up if you would like instead so that they're not too far on top of each other, and it helps with the other dimensions as well. The 4.25 here can remain relatively low because everything's going to come down to the bottom. Then for the rectangle, if we go from here, this bottom, follow this line over, we have 3.25 to the bottom. So once we add that, see how the square is all outlined in black now? That's fully constrained. Once we add this in, this will be fully constrained. So that's 3.75. Not 3. What was it? 3.25. My apologies. So if you do what I just did, just double click on that number and you can change it to 25. All right, so now both of these are outlined in black, meaning 3 of the components we've added now are fully constrained. So we're going to move on to the next portion, which is all of these circles. So I'm going to move this more so up here since we're going to be doing everything in this area. So dimension, you can just click D on your keyboard. Both of these have the same height. So we're going to do 3.875. This one's also 3.875. So you can either put these one right underneath each other or right on top, or you can stack them. I'm just going to place them on top of each other so I can see them a lot better when I need to. And that way, if I need to edit either one of these, I can see which one each of these is going to. For these, we have 2.75, and I'm going to do the same exact thing from here to the bottom. So now both of these are at the same height, and all of these are going to match up as well. So this height is 1.5, and these are 0.375. And we'll do these first. One, two. This one's 1.5. And make sure you're always clicking the center of the circle. If you click the outer edge, it's going to start creating a diameter, which I'm going to pull each of these out just so that they're not right on top. Of the circles here. That way it just spreads it out a little bit and we can see where exactly we are clicking. There we go. You don't necessarily have to pull them outside of the shape just so that they're out of the way while you're doing the dimensions. So now we have to do all of the widths. So these two are at 0.406. These two are at that 1.25 plus 0.406. So we'll start with that. So this is 0.406. And this one's 0.406. You don't have to necessarily center these like I am. I just find it a little bit easier. I don't know why that happened. A little bit easier to see them all. And now we're going to work on these. So we don't even have to worry about placing this. This one is 1.656. But if you want to just make sure, we want to have the 1.25 plus 0.406, 1.656. Just happened to get lucky in where I placed it. So you can just type this one in, or if you want, you can do the 1.25 plus 0.406. However you would like to type it in, you will get the same number either way. So now all of 4 of these are outlined in black, which means they are completely done. I'm going to spread these out a little bit more. Now we're moving on to these 4, and then we'll be done with the top plate. So for these widths, these 2 are 2.75 and these 2 are 3.875. So we have 2.75. The one above is 2.75. And then these ones, just going to move it up a little bit, are 3.875, as well as this one, 3.875. You can see too where the hexagons are on the bottom plate as well as this circle, that they are all centered. That's also a way you can check that all of these are at the correct location. So just going to spread these out again so that they're not so stacked on top of each other, so that I can actually read them. And our base plate, or top plate I should say, for the base plate is now complete. So we're going to hit finish sketch. Now when you go to extrude the top plate, you want to select the general square, and then you want to select the area in between the hexagon and the circle so that the circle will still be hollow. So there should be a red rim around the all of the circles, the square, and the rectangle. And notice here too, where you have the rectangle that you placed here, it does not outline this area right there in red. It keeps that black, so you'll see why in a second. That's important. So you can either type in 0.24, or since we know the two heights are the same, you can do 0.48 divided by 2. Either way, still gets you that 0.24. And now, whichever one is activated, so we have this is the active component, we can make this active, which makes the top look transparent, or we can have both of them be active at the same time, which is what we want. All right, so later on, once we go to complete this, we'll add the materials, which would be under modify. We can change the appearance and the physical material, but we'll get to that a little later on once we fully complete the Tremel toy. So for now, we have our base, bottom plate and top plate. We are complete. Make sure you save this. This would be the base plate. Make sure it's in activity 132. Save it, and you are done.